Greetings, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Inner Light Ministries, to our virtual Sunday morning gathering. And it may not be Sunday morning for you at this moment, but whatever time it is, whatever day, wherever it is that you are in the world, I know that it is the right time. It's the right time. I'm Reverend Deborah Johnson. So happy to be on this spiritual journey with you. There's a old proverb that if you want to go fast, travel alone. If you want to go far, travel together. Well, this thing called life is not a sprint, baby. It's a marathon. And we're in here for the long haul. And for the long haul, we travel together. We travel together. People come into our lives for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. And we can't know what that is, in the moment. But if we are present, we will find that there is a blessing that we are to one another at every stage of the way. Even the people that we are considering to be opposition, they play a role in our growth and in our development. We invite you to this odyssey, this extreme adventure called life. It is in session. Life is in session. We are about healing. We are about growth. We are about transformation. We are about the universal spiritual principles, those concepts and ideas that transcend time and history and culture. Nobody's got a patent on the truth. But those are the things that we speak of here, the stuff of life itself, where we can apply the most ancient wisdom to the circumstances and the conditions of today. It's good that we know about history and context. It's good that we read sacred text. But if it's just an intellectual exercise, then we're not going to get the benefit out of it. We're here about the practical application and the practical application in everything. Don't pigeonhole anything that we're talking about here and relegate it to just one area or just one aspect of living. Try it out. Ask yourself, well, what would this mean for my personal life? What does this mean for my health circumstances? What does this mean for my wealth, my prosperity? What does this mean for my relationships? What does this mean for us as a society? What does this mean for politics or economics? Okay. Think big, think small, but most especially just think expansive. Okay. Just expansive, because the same principles apply to everything. So you're going to hear me going back and forth between micro examples, between macro examples, because it's all the same stuff. It's all the same stuff. We offer tools for living. And one of the tools that we offer every week are affirmative activations. They are exactly 100 words. It's 100 words to change your life. And like any tool, they're only as good as how much we use them. So we expose you to them here, encouraging you to come back and really be with it. Let it, call it simmer and saute. Let it find a resting place. Let it gestate in your very being. Because once it takes root, then it can bear the fruits. See, first the roots and then the fruits. We're going to be talking today about how is it that there is a divine order that's beyond our control. Okay? There really is. I promise you. And if you're able to, I invite you to say the affirmations along with me as they appear on your screen. I trust in a power higher than my own. I see the evidence of divine design all around me. There's order in everything, from snowflakes to galaxies. I continuously stand in awe of the majesty of the universe. I yield to an inner wisdom in harmony with life itself. My life is a part of divine design, filled with meaning and purpose, regardless of circumstances. I remain inspired and uplifted. Piercing through all illusions, I see right action forever emerging. My life bears witness to divine order beyond my control. Not my will, but thine be done. Let's sit with this a moment. Breathe it in. And I invite you to just zero in on something. Just see if you're called to anything. Maybe it's, regardless of circumstances, I remain inspired and uplifted. Maybe it's, I yield to an inner wisdom in harmony with life itself. Maybe it's, I trust in a power higher than my own. Maybe it's, my life bears witness to divine order beyond my control. I'm going to invite you to come back to this, to soak it in as a whole and see if there's a particular something that's coming to you, and allow that to be a focal point of your attention over the next week. And I promise you that if you dare to really, really, really let these concepts in, They will change your life. Let's take a breath. So it is my honor and my pleasure uh, to bring within our space for the day. I like to bring in people from all over within our spiritual community so that we can really know that we're not just looking at this alone, that there really is community and that we're everywhere. So it is my honor and my privilege to bring in the Reverend Dr. Liza Ranco from the Oakland area. Uh, close personal friend and colleague, and my prayer partner for decades now. Been a minute.
Been a minute.
Yeah, just like every doctor needs a doctor, you know, every praying person needs somebody praying with and for them. We lovingly refer to it as spiritual jogging partners.
That's right.
Yeah. So I say thank you, Reverend Liza, for all your support through the years and your support of Innerlight. Being there in the beginning, in our humble roots. So it's been quite the journey. So we're going to be talking today about divine order, like beyond my control. And I know this is a subject that you and I personally will discuss
On the regular, Rev.
quite frequently. And I know people have a tendency to think that, the ministers, the ones that, they got it all together. They figured it all out. It's like, no, we're all on this journey together. And will you just share a little bit about what you know of in your own life and in other people's lives? And what are those things we struggle with this idea of divine order beyond our control?
Well, Rev, when I read those affirmations, I've got an echo. I don't know if that's everywhere, but I will carry on. Thank you. That's better.
You're good with us.
Okay. Most of those statements I was good with, right? You know me well enough to know my awe and appreciation for the divine as it expresses through nature. And it's pretty easy for me to see the perfect order, as you say in the affirmations, in everything from snowflakes to galaxies. Where it gets more challenging is that regardless of circumstances part. To maintain that same faith in the face of human conditions that can feel pretty far from divine, and like something other than right order. We were talking about this the last time we prayed together, that this is especially present for me right now in the face of the tremendous harms that so many of us humans inflict on one another and on our earth and our more than human kin. You and I have talked a lot about, for such a time as this, that we are not alive in these pivotal times by accident, but rather that our souls are here with purpose. Part of that purpose is how we respond to the urgency of the multiple crises before us, to be agents or instruments, of healing and transformation. I like how you put it in the affirmation, to know that my life is part of divine design, filled with meaning and purpose. I really believe that.
Yes.
And yet some days, Rev, I gotta say, it is hard not to lose heart in the face of atrocity. So I'm hoping that maybe you could speak to that today, because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who may be wrestling with this.
Yes, for sure. Good. Well, thank you. Thank you, Reverend Liza. And uh, I'll be inviting you back at the end when we're doing a prayer around all of this.
Mhm.
So
And that is,
let's just all take a breath. Let's just take a breath. Divine order beyond my control. A divine order is not something that we can define. Any of our concepts are finite, and we cannot put the infinite within the finite. And whenever we're asking questions, we're always looking at it from just like a little sliver, just a little slice based upon our limited understanding and the contextualization of our own lives, of a very specific incarnation, which within the scheme of life is like a nanosecond. It barely even registers when you think about like how long the galaxies have been. We're going to lack the capacity to see and to understand the whole picture. And what we see is not necessarily the final product. It'd be like if a cake was baking, you have that part where there are all these separate ingredients. You've got an egg over here, you've got flour over here, you have milk over here. Okay. Then there's that point when it all comes together and it's some kind of a batter. Okay. There'll be those moments when it's in the oven and it's slowly rising, and then there's the end when it actually is like a loaf of bread, so to speak. And our one particular incarnation could be any part along that chain. Maybe the only piece of the bread that we see is an egg, or it's a flour. In our life, that's it. Okay. But there are all of these other processes that are going to be going on and going on and going on to where there's a loaf of bread at the end. Well, most of us want all of it. We want the entire process from like start to finish to be within like our lifetime and something that we can tangibly see. That's not the way that it goes. It's like the old proverb, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. 20 years ago. That we don't always get to eat the fruit from the seeds that we plant. Just let that sink in for a moment. We're in this thing called life, and each of us is making a contribution as we go along. There's a reciprocity that takes place, and sense of a divine circulation. You get back what you put out. What goes around comes around. You reap what you sow. There is this thing that cultures understand, but it's not a quid pro quo universe. It's not a tit for tat that I invest so much support in you, and the support I get back in the universe is going to come from you. I invest so much in this career, and all of my good and all of the income that comes back to me is going to come specifically through this career or this job that I nurtured. It's not that kind of universe. We're all going to eat. There really is enough. It's a distribution problem. It's not a supply problem. And it's up to us to make certain that the bounty is able to make it wherever it needs to go all over the world so that we all can eat. But here's the thing, is that what you eat today didn't just poof materialize today. It existed. The universe provides for us before we need it. The air that we breathe tomorrow already exists. It already exists. Okay. We're not controlling everything. We are participating in it, but we're not controlling it. We don't know. We don't know what it's going to take for healing to occur. There's a way that we can get codependent in relationships with people, where we predetermine what it is that we think that they need, how they need it, the when, the wherefores, the hows, the all of the rest of that. And we can get this quite frustrated when they're not taking our advice and they seem to be doing things that are contrary to what we would want them to do, particularly when we see them in our minds suffering needlessly or being subjected to things that seem much more harsh and brutal than anything that they ever need to go through. And that's hard for us because there's that certain something within us that wants to provide for and that wants to care. And then we grow to realize if we want to get off the codependency, which is as much of an addiction as whomever it is that we're trying to help, that we have to let them have their life. Okay. We can't be the one to give them their lessons. We can't be the ones to build the trust up within them. That they're going to have to get the strength to stand on their own 2 feet, that there's things that need to take place that are beyond our control. They're beyond our control. When we look at our own lives and we look at other people's lives, that we've had the most growth in what would we consider the worst circumstances. Okay. The things that we would have never wanted to go through are those pivot turning points. I don't think I'm speaking out of sorts here, but I'll be bringing my friend and colleague, Reverend Liza, back on at the end to do the prayer with me. And I mentioned before, we're prayer partners and we've been praying together for decades. And there have been more than one occasion where she has literally been at the brink of death since teenage years, including up to, more recent in adult years. Places I personally have never been through. I've never gone through that kind of pain and those kinds of physical challenges. And what I know is that there's a faith that she has now. There is a real sense of oneness and the divine that will come from going to such a brink. I've had my own brinks. They may not have been in the health realm, but it took tests in the universe for us to have a testimony. Just take a breath. There's a lot that needs to be healed. A lot that needs to be healed in our personal life, and a lot that needs to be healed in the larger collective. We can't heal what we don't feel. We can't heal what we don't feel. So when we're praying for things, what we're praying for, unbeknownst to us, is for anything unlike that to come up and to be healed. If I'm praying for sobriety, for example, and I'm praying for freedom from my addictions, guess what? I'm going to wind up doing some fierce inventories about my pain points, my triggers, my behavior. I'm going to have to look at some ugly stuff. My body's going to wig out. I'm going to have to go through detox and all what it takes to cleanse and to purge. And it's not pretty. I contend that's why more of us aren't sober. And I'm not just talking about from substances, but I'm talking about, relationships and workaholism and addictions to power and all the other stuff that we do individually and collectively. Because we don't want to go through the detox. We don't want to go through the withdrawals. We don't want to go through the complete reorganization of our lives that needs to take place in order to live the more sober life. So there's certain patterns and things, addictive patterns, that have been going on for millennia. Addictive patterns about supremacy, about oppression, about rule and control and all of the rest of that kind of stuff. And it is getting healed. It's getting healed. Okay? It's just a costly funeral. You know what King said? The days of segregation are over. You can be sure of it. That the only thing uncertain is how costly the segregationists will make the funeral. That's where we are now in the world. Okay? The days of supremacy are over. They're over. The days of one nation ruling, the days of one ethnic group being above everybody else and thinking that they can just cleanse and that one group is like self-righteous enough and they've got the whole truth and God is on their side and only their side. Over. It's a whole new ball game now. Particularly the way that technologies have made us a neighborhood. And as King Jr. said, the challenge is, can we now become the brotherhood, the sisterhood? Can we now become a beloved community? Okay? We're in a very costly funeral in many respects, and the things that are going on. And we've got to go through it to get on the other side of it. But we don't have to just go through it in rage or frustration. We hospice that crap away. We hospice it away. If any of you have ever had that opportunity, maybe with a loved one, a parent, or someone who didn't just die suddenly in an automobile accident or something, but actually went through that process of sloughing off the mortal coil. Okay? They go through all the stages of grief, all of it. there's anger, there's bargaining, there's acceptance at some point. I mean, there's all these different things that we go through. And it isn't like one and done. We recycle through the same emotion, like over and over and over again. Well, we do the same thing collectively. A lot of the nasty stuff that we see going on out there is grief. It's grief. It's unprocessed grief. Grief trying to get revenge. Grief trying to recreate some other time period when our territory was different, or when other groups of people that used to be dominant and in control seem to be becoming increasingly the minority and are afraid that they're going to be pushed out and marginalized the way they did other people. Grief. It's grief. And see, we grieve not only what we had and lost, we also grieve what we never had. The unrequited dreams. If I have a father that lived with me, like I did, a father that died at 90, that's one kind of grief. But if I never met him, that'd have been another kind of grief. We miss this sometimes when we see uprisings. I'm from Los Angeles. City was always going up in flames. And people, they would see anger and rage, but they couldn't see the grief. They couldn't see the grief. They couldn't see the pain of the sense of the liberty and justice that has been promised never coming. And I'm not condoning rioting, but it was always very specific. Schools weren't burned down, libraries, churches, people's homes. No. Business, commerce, which is symbolic of this rage of the oppression, the exploitation, the racism that's tied to the economic exploitation as a race, as a construct. That's what was being fought against. That's what was being rioted against. I don't condone the violence, but I also know that on the collective level, that's part of that journey towards healing. When people are fighting back for their independence, if you think of it on a human individual level, there's that point of adolescence when the kid is trying to individuate and there's a rebellion that takes place, particularly when they become aware of the hypocrisies, when they become aware of the double standards, and they're trying to find themselves within all of it. There's a lot of things that happen. And if we just judge by the naked eye what's going on, we're going to miss the deeper healings that are taking place. If everything just got stuffed, like, in the drawer or swept underneath the carpet or the rug on the floor, pushed in some closet and the door locked, it festers. It doesn't go anywhere. Okay? So those of us who consider ourselves to be more liberal and more progressive, may be really frustrated, what feels like it's going counter to the things that we're praying for or the things that we want. But we forget anything unlike where we're trying to go has to come up to be healed. It has to come up to be healed. So, what do we see? Do we see just destruction? Or do we see some healing trying to take place? What do we see? What do we see? Once again, I'm not condoning genocide or like anything else. But what I'm saying is that there is an arc of the moral universe and it bends towards justice. That things aren't happening out of nowhere, that they are happening within a context, and within that broader context, beyond just whatever it is that's happening on a social political level, there's a greater divine order that's taking place. Okay? Even if it's us awakening and saying, this doesn't need to happen anymore. Even if it's that becomes an order. So we stay out of the complicity, that we stay out of the acquiescence of our power that just lets certain consciousness of history keep repeating itself. But we stop and say, oh no, no. It takes a lot for us to move us in humanity and consciousness. Sometimes it has taken loss of life. Somehow it has taken that last straw, so to speak. We sometimes refer to it as social justice as a tipping point. Okay. George Floyd wasn't new. What happened to him wasn't new, but it did become a tipping point. It became a tipping point for something, not just in social consciousness and all of the picketing and the demonstrations and the marches that were going on literally all over the world, but even when the social justice system. I remember distinctly when the verdict came. I was on a business call and I cried. I broke at some visceral level deeper than anything that I could know. It could feel it was like ancestral pain. And in this babbling voice, I just kept saying that this has never happened before. That the police have never, ever really been held accountable. And just what this meant. What this meant. Okay. There's a divine order. There's a right action that's beyond our control. Did I want George Floyd to suffer there like that? Of course not. Who would have wanted that? And the universe wastes nothing. Nothing. It's like this huge compost pile that takes all of the crap of our life and makes fertilizer out of it. Makes fertilizer out of it so that it helps the soil for whatever else is next to become better and become more fruitful. Divine order beyond my control. Newsflash. We're never in control anyway. We're not. It's a narrative. It's a story that we tell ourselves to try to give ourselves less of a sense of anxiety for not being able to predict the future. One of the lines that comes up in The Sacred Yes, the first volume of my Letters from the Infinite series, is that just because things are not out of control, just because things are not in our control, doesn't mean they're out of control. Okay? Doesn't mean that. And I'd like to credit and acknowledge Reverend Liza, who's going to join me for the prayer for naming that series so. And the first book, naming that after my first sermon at Inner Light a number of years ago. This thing that happens, this order in the universe, it's every place. Part of this notion of like taking it one day at a time that's so popular in 12-step programs is to help break us from that addictive tendency to think that we need to be in control, to help us be present enough on a daily basis to really settle in to the awareness that we never are in control anyway. And that's all right. As a practice of releasing this kind of fear, needing to control stuff where everything's going to go to hell in a handbag, I would do this practice at the end of the day. And I would just think about all the different things that happen in the day. Circumstances, conditions, whatever. And I do this little drill of how much of whatever happened that day did I actually control. Right down to the beating of my own heart. The phone call that came. The food that made it to the supermarket where I bought some groceries. Just on and on. Like, how much of that was under my control? And you know what? Zip. Yeah. Like a minuscule, if anything, was really under my control. And I had to look and say, well, you know what? Man, the world made it today without me micromanaging it. Imagine that. Everybody got to where they needed to go and everything happened and billions of people all over the world. And Deborah didn't have to sit there and control and figure everything out for everything. It's humbling. And that's what our ego needs in order to really get into the idea of the divine order and the right action and not having control. It's just ego eats some humble pie. Because it's not about you. And what we know about the ego, as it mentions in The Sacred Yes, that our ego just likes to take credit. When it can't take credit for our success, it wants to take credit for our failure because it just wants to take credit. Give the universe some credit. Give God some credit, the divine some credit, life some credit, however you define that to be. Something out there really smart, really, really smart. A divine design that boggles the human mind. Processes that are going on all the time. Just the number of things that are happening in your body temple right now boggles the mind. It's been going on. It's been going on for years and years. It's part of what I love about the ocean. Just watching that tide. It's like a heartbeat. In and out. And I think there's never been a moment in history, not a minute, where that in and out was not taking place. So it is with life. There are ebbs, there are tides. There's something really, really smart that's trying to be all of itself. And our job is to not get disheartened at the seasons, to not get upset with the winter because everything's not in full blossom. Just hang in there. Hang in there. Maybe you don't see the spring, but the next generations will. Because there's something smarter than we are that's in control. Just breathe that in. Breathe it in. And we're going to take this to prayer. I'm going to invite Reverend Liza to come back, and we're going to do for a short time a tag team. And as we turn within, we're knowing and we're sensing and we're feeling at a deep, deep, visceral level this wisdom, this intelligence, this omnipotence, omnipresence, omniscience, all power, all knowledge, all presence. In it, we are living and we are moving and we are having our being. How could we not trust? Could we not trust something as brilliant as to create nature, as brilliant as to create us? What is there not to trust? I trust God to be God, and I trust people to be people. And I don't confuse the two. In this moment right now, we speak the word for that transcendent awareness. Lord, lift us up on higher ground. Plant our feet where they belong. Above the rancor, above the dis-ease, above the confusions, the lack of civility, the fears, the worries, the doubts. Lord, lift us up above our own agendas, our own timetables, our own ought tos and shoulds and expectations. And we rise up to the place of pure possibility, expectancy beyond all expectation. We don't micromanage you, God. We don't stand in the way, trying to push you into our plans. Oh, no, 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 no. How can we serve you this day? Where do you want us to be? Where do we go? What do we say? What will glorify your name? This is our place of surrender every day, not our will, but thine be done. We will our will to be the will of God, so that there is only one will. That's all there is anyway. How good it is. Thank you for coming through as all needs met. As peace all over the world. As sufficiency. courage and enough. Oh, this is so much more. And I pass the word.
And continuing in this consciousness of consecrated surrender. With such deep gratitude for the privilege of being alive on earth in this pivotal moment. Use us, Divine, as the instruments of right action, right unfoldment, of love, of wisdom, of healing, of transformation, of the expanding beauty of your vision and possibility for the world. Let all that is within us be offered in service to this sacred purpose. Allow us to grow and to expand beyond what we even dreamed was possible. For us individually and for us collectively. For the infinite past and the infinite future, knowing that we are here for just a snapshot in eternity. Allow us to be faithful to our moment, honoring the gifts of those that have come before and making the way wide and clear and open for those yet to be born. And whatever is needed within our lives to support our full availability to answer this call, we create a place of availability, of receptivity within ourselves for that divine order, that divine unfoldment, everywhere expressing. It is in such profound gratitude for this remembrance that I release this word to its perfect unfoldment and divine fulfillment, asking you, God, to have full sway in this and all things. We let go and we let it be. And so it is. Amen and Ashe.
So it is. Yes, I'm going to invite you back in a moment to share with us a little bit about your podcast and book that's going to be out, because we're holding it with you for that.
We've been praying it up.
Thank you, Reverend Liza. We're praying community here. Praying community. You'll see scrolling across your screen are ways in which you can reach us. You can give us a call at 831-465-9090 at extension 254. You can send us an email at the number 4 and then the word prayer at innerlightministries.com. We have prayer practitioners, whole team of folks that are waiting, available. They've trained for years to hold this high watch, this space for you. It's all confidential. There's no charge for it, although donations are always welcomed and appreciated. Nothing canned, all personal for you. And if it's for you, it's for your loved one, something in society, or maybe you just want us to stand with you in agreement, okay, for the beautiful birthing and unfoldment of something magnificent in your life. Wherever two or more are gathered, something really, really good happens. So we invite you into that. Yes, indeed. Speaking of invitations, please follow us. Check out our calendar, the different events that are going on. Some are virtual, some in person, some a little bit of both. Particularly invite you next week in Santa Cruz. We celebrate Pride at the beginning of the month. There is going to be festivities before the Pride March at about 9:30, I think it is. I'll be part of an interfaith gathering. Please join us in the contingency. We'll be with the religious groups that are marching together. And then in the afternoon, we'll be back at the Resource Center for Nonviolence, where we are every first Sunday of the month from 3 to 5. Gina Renee, a hip hop artist, is going to be with us, and we're just going to be carrying on in our Pride celebration. That is also live streamed, the Sunday afternoon services, and you can catch it live right on YouTube. And I also want to invite Reverend Liza to come back and tell you a little bit about her podcast and the book that's in search of a publisher right now. We're standing with you in that.
Thank you, Rev. And you making it sound like I actually have a podcast, but in fact, I was so grateful to be a guest on the podcast called The Cosmic We, that is hosted by my dear sister friend, Dr. Barbara Holmes, and her colleague, Dr. Donnie Bryant. The episode just dropped today called Mysticism, Social Action, and the Path of the Soul. I think that might be of interest to some of the Inner Light community. I think the easiest way to find that, to find my blog on Substack, to know all what I'm up to, is my website, which is just lizaranco.org. The book, bless you for mentioning it, is called Healing Self, Healing World, Soul Medicine for Apocalyptic Times. And that title pretty much tells you what it's about: the inner healing, the collective healing, and how we navigate these times as part of the transformation.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to having that out on the market. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And speaking of thank yous, it's our time of conscious contribution, that time of giving and circulating. As an independent ministry, everything that we have is coming in from you, the listeners, regardless of where it is that you are, those who participate. And we say thank you so much, because that's what keeps our programs up, and that's what keeps our programs going. You'll see on your screen that there are different ways in which you can participate in this. There's a PayPal. There's a QR code there where you can use PayPal. You can use any debit, credit card, and a recurring option is there that I really want to encourage you to take advantage of. If you're already on a computer device, you don't need to use the QR code. There'll be a donate button that you will see there that is available in your stream. Or you might want to use something like Cash App, which is $ Inner Light Ministries. Regardless of the portal that you use, every nickel, dollar, and dime is going towards healing and transformation. If you're able to, I'd ask you to repeat after me. My every act produces abundance. I dare to give freely unto the truth that sets us free. We bless and release this gift, knowing it returns to us 1,000-fold. 1,000-fold. Yeah. The QR code and the portals will come back on the screen in a moment. As always, we want to remind you to take this consciousness and multiply it. Okay? Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on social media. Pass the word along, and we'll see you next time. Hope to see you at Pride.